Hi, I'm Todd Jones. I'm the host of the podcast Press Box Access.
Here's a clip from my interview with Mike DeCourcy. Mike tells us about getting to know Coach K, Mike Krzyzewski.
I had so many one-on-one conversations with Mike Krzyzewski over the years that when it came down to his final year, and his final year was 21-22, so we're just really coming toward the end of the worst parts of the pandemic, and he's not really all that eager to do a series of hey, I'm saying goodbye kind of articles.
Right.
uh, I was able to get one because I had built up a relationship with him over those uh, 20 years or so, that I'd gotten a chance to got to know him, and we had so many good conversations, and I think I built up respect with him, so that he only did a few one-on-ones. I think he did one with the News and Observer, the Raleigh paper, and he did one with me, and not many beyond that. And so I feel like that was, again, part of building up that rapport through knowing the game, loving the game, communicating that I love the game and want it to be the best it can be. And then also just, getting to know Krzyzewski on his terms and not on, well, this is what everybody says about him. So what everybody says about him must be true. So that's the approach to take.
What do people get right about Krzyzewski and what do they get wrong?
They get right that he's a terrific coach. I think they get wrong that I think the sideline demeanor. A lot of times, this is true probably in basketball more than anything, because you see the coaches so intensely, and there's so many sideline shots of them that people think that how a coach comports himself on the sideline is who he is. And I can give you scores of examples of that, and he's certainly one. Mick Cronin from UCLA he's a pretty fiery guy on the sideline, and people
Right.
think that's who he is. He's the most laid back guy. And then there was Gene Cady back with Purdue back in the 90s and 2000s, and everybody thought that he was the most miserable person in the world because he seemed like it on the sideline. And Gene Cady, when I finally got to meet him, he is the biggest teddy bear there's ever been. Like, he is just the sweetest guy. And it just was complete opposite of his sideline demeanor. So I think that's probably a lot about of Mike, about what people think of him, in terms of that. And I think they probably think that because he coached Duke, that he's more elitist than he is. I mean, that's not really who he is as a person. He's not. That's not the way he is. He's much more down to earth than that. Loves his family above all, and I think that's a big part of why he coached as long as he did. I wrote about this probably around 2016, 2015, something like that. That when everybody would ask him every year, "Are you going to retire?" And I knew him well enough that he didn't have a ton of hobbies. He wasn't a golfer, wasn't a tennis player, that wasn't like a guy like Roy Williams will tell you straight to your face. He loves to shoot craps, and he loves to go to casinos and stuff. And that's not Mike either. And Mike, while his girls were growing up, one of the things that they'd love to do, because I ran into him on a trip like this one time, he would take his girls and his wife Mickey to Broadway, and they would go see two, three, four shows, whatever they could squeeze in. That was something he loved. But then, his three daughters are now all grown up and married and have their families, so that's not really that feasible now. So he's very engaged with the family. So he basically integrated a lot of his family into the program, and into various enterprises that he's involved with, and so that kept him close to his family while he was continuing to work on being Duke's basketball coach. It didn't take him away from his family. They were closer because of it. And so that's why he lasted as long as he did as head coach, until finally, I think he and Mickey sat down and realized that it was time to tap the brakes a little bit.
All the conversations and time you spent with Krzyzewski, do you have a favorite anecdote, behind the scenes story, even if it's just you and Mike somewhere on the road or something?
Yeah, I think honestly the one, it's going to sound somewhat it's going to not going to, some people might not think it reflects well on me, but this was right after I started at the Sporting News full time, 2000, and I had been part time for from 95 until 2000, doing the one column a week. That's to the start. Eventually it became two because this thing called the internet became a thing. And so I would write one for that. I hadn't been in the gym with Duke. I hadn't done anything specific with them. I'd covered their game against Carolina in early February. That one was at Cameron. But I hadn't had any one-on-one time with them or anything. And then they won the national championship in 2000. And I was walking alone through the tunnels at the Metrodome in Minneapolis. And I saw him in his golf cart and he was being driven. And I just said, congratulations. And he said, thanks, Mike. And I know this is sound bad, but that was a big moment for me because that meant he knew who I was. It really meant a lot to me because the reason it meant something to me was because he had to have seen something I did, and he must have liked it enough to note who I was. I know it sounds silly, but it really meant a lot because it meant I was making an impact.